BBC Radio Merseyside.
And we stay with the entertainment world for this week's Phillips interview. Tony Blaney was born and brought up and still lives in Liverpool, although, as we'll hear, he certainly gets around the world a lot. He's a multi-talented actor who's also a singer, musician and dancer, and whose career almost brought him face-to-face with Somali pirates. But more recently he's been performing in calmer waters on home ground at the Unity Theatre, where he appeared last month in a dark comedy called Comfort. I asked Tony how the show went.
It went really well. It's a brand new play written by a writer-director from Ireland called Stephen Smith. We did 2 nights at the Unity, and we didn't sell 8 tickets over the 2 nights, so it was pretty much sold out. And for a new play in Liverpool,
that's pretty good.
Quite good going.
What's it about?
It's a bit complicated. It's a dark comedy, really, set in a call centre, a therapy call centre. People will call up and speak to the character Rob, which I played, and he will give them advice on how to lead their lives, basically.
A sort of Samaritans setting.
Kind of Samaritans, but not as nice as Samaritans. They take your money and point you in the right direction towards drugs or other therapy which they can provide. Right. Yeah.
But it went well.
It went really well, yes.
And it's going to come back?
It is coming back. We're going to rework it. It was done for the 2 nights of Unity as a trial run to see how it went, to see which bits need tweaking. We've seen that some bits need tweaking, and we're now looking for a director. So if anybody is out there listening at the moment and they fancy the chances of being a director, if they have any experience or little or none, they can send me an email, which I'll give out the email address later on.
Yeah, okay.
And it'll be really good. We're looking forward to taking new ideas on board.
Have you always been an actor? Is that what you always wanted to be?
Yeah, I've never done anything else, really. I worked as a barista, making coffee for about 3 months, and that's the only real job I've ever had. And I was very good at that, but I was quite often singing and dancing to the punters instead of making them the coffee, so...
You got fired?
Yeah, well, I got a better offer and went cruising around the world instead.
Well, we'll get to that in a bit. You were born in Liverpool?
I certainly was.
Whereabouts?
Born in Mill Road Hospital.
Oh, yeah. Good old Mill Road.
Oh,
Not existed
yes.
longer, sadly.
Yes, and I lived in Toxteth up until 81, and we moved about 2 weeks before the riot started up to Aintree.
Was that because your dad got a better job or something?
No, it's because they got a better flat. So we kind of just moved out.
It's a long move, though, from Dingle to Aintree.
Yeah. I mean, I was only very young at the time.
Oh,
so
I see.
I moved just in time for my Holy Communion at Blessed Sacrament.
Right.
So a new start.
So you didn't? Did you go to school? You weren't old enough to go to school, or were you old enough?
I went and joined Blessed Sacrament School. I went. Well, how old were I? How old are you when you make your communion? I was, 5 or 6?
Yeah, so that was your first school?
It was my first school, pretty much, yeah.
But you must have had friends, you must have had small friends from the Toxteth area.
I did, I had, a few small friends, and I was very much a singer-dancer around the playground as well, so...
That's always been your thing?
Putting on the shows, yeah.
So did they do shows at Blessed Sacrament?
I think they did. I remember doing one at the Cub Scouts. We did one at Blessed Sacrament under Sister Aidan, who was the headmistress there when I was there. And we did a gang show, and I had to do... Tommy Steele, hold a flashbang while I'm on a picture.
And you loved it, obviously.
I loved it, obviously.
Did you know that that's what you really wanted to do? Or?
I knew it's what I could do. I knew I didn't have to concentrate on it. So I thought, well, this is easy. Just go up, sing, dance, jump around, make a fool of yourself, and make people laugh and clap.
What about work?
Well, I didn't think about that. That was always my mum and dad's problem. What are you going to do when you're older?
No, I meant what about work at school? Did you do any of that?
Just about. I was very good at drawing, and I was good at writing stories. And when I was younger, they asked me what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was about 8.
That's very young to have that idea.
I know. I think I'd seen something on Newsround about something being, a filmmaker. I thought, I can do that. Right. And I can make my own films.
Did you actually go on to have...
I have produced films. Right. Yeah.
So from Blessed Sacrament, which secondary school did you go to then?
Archbishop Beck.
Yeah. Smashing school.
It is a good school. It wasn't quite a sports college when I was there, which is just as well, because I'm not very sporty.
You're not sporty.
At all. I'm much more in the head and the feet.
And did you do well at that school? Or?
I did okay. I knuckled down and got what I needed to get if I wanted to go and get a proper job when I was older. Right. And I decided that proper job wasn't really for me. Then I went to JHP training in Bootle and learned how to be a typist, just in case. I can still type, although my fingers don't really work since the arthritis set in.
You're not that old, are you, for goodness sake?
Not that old. And I did okay, and then I joined youth theatre at the Everyman.
When would that be?
That would be when I was about 19 or 20.
Who was running it then?
It was Jojo Moreski.
Oh, yes.
And I was in there for the first week, and then they offered me the lead in their new Christmas show, Rumpelstiltskin.
Right.
From that, I got an agent.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah, it was my first, not even professional, but semi-professional,
Yeah.
an audience produced with lights, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I got taken on by an agent.
And got work from that?
I did. I got bits of TV bits here and there, some radio bits here and there.
More than extra work?
More than extra work, yeah. I've never done extra work. Only to help out friends, really, on their kind of films.
Yeah. By then, you did know that this was going to be your profession, did you? Or
yeah,
was the
by
barista...
then I decided I could live the life of a man with no money. Which generally
That is exactly the right
generally
attitude.
is what it is, and I'm still living that life. Every now and again it comes and it's great, and I've done it.
It's a funny world, isn't it, the theatre, or that world, because there are some people who can make an absolute fortune, and there are some people who are equally good. In fact, some people who are untalented who can make a fortune, and they're equally good and just can't break into it. And it's luck, time, place, chance.
It is, yeah. I mean, I've made some choices that were for the right reasons rather than go for the money reasons. Which, every now and again, when I get a bill, I regret those decisions, but mostly I'm very happy with the choices that I've made.
So, what was the first professional job you did, other than the?
We're going back a bit now. I did a stint in TIE, which is Theatre and Education, and I got paid quite a lot of money for that. That's
a lot of people come into the business, or used to anyhow come into the business that way.
Yeah, I think it's a very good training if you can work through 300 screaming kids and dinner ladies and caretakers.
And right up in front of them as well.
Yeah. Work through that, you can work through anything.
Was that a company in Liverpool?
I've worked for a few, actually. I can't really remember which one it was. I worked for MIPT, Middleside Young People's Theatre Company, which sadly are no longer around.
Yeah.
I did a play called Little Father, which was about the fall of the Russian family, really, the Russian royal family.
Right.
And that went really well, and from that I got other bits and bobs, did some teaching from that.
Do you still have the same agent, or have you moved on?
I'm no longer with an agent. I'm looking for
all?
representation. I was with an agency in Liverpool called RBA Management, which are a very good cooperative. But when I started cruising, I thought that was to get the best of my money and my wage.
Now, how did you fall into the cruising business?
Well, that's really funny, actually. I was looking for a job. I just had a shift of my life, as in I'd kicked somebody out my flat, and I was single, so I thought, what can I do? So I told the agent at the time, get me out of Liverpool, don't care where it is, I'll do anything. And they said, well, there's an audition tomorrow for a cruise, do you want to go for that? I was like, well, I won't get it, because I'm not a dancer, I can sing a bit, and I'm an actor. And they were like, well, it's an acting job, they want you to do 3 plays on board the cruise ship. I thought, great. So I went down to audition to be William Mossop in Hobson's Choice.
But where was the audition, in London?
Nope, it was in near Leeds, in Keighley. Yeah, so I went up there. I know, what a place. I know, it's not as glamorous as it sounds, but I got the job anyway. I went down, auditioned, sang my song, did my little dance routine, and read some of the play. And then I started the next day. I had 10 shows to learn in a week.
10
shows to learn in a week, because they heard me sing and thought, right, well, we can have you as the male lead vocalist. Okay. So I had 3 plays to learn, 10 shows with full dance routines, proper showbiz, jazz hands kind of thing, and as well as my own cabaret. So did that, had about 3 weeks rehearsal full until the audience got on, and then we were live.
Which company was this with?
It was for Thompson.
And which ship?
It was Calypso, which was no longer with us. It had 3 years. It was the smallest in the fleet, and it was it was a great ship.
And where did it go with that first?
We did the Black Sea, the Aegean Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and somewhere else I can't remember.
Oh, is that on one trip, you mean?
Yeah, it was a 3-week itinerary.
Right, okay.
So we kind of went down with the Greek islands 1 week, and then we went around Russia, Istanbul.
I know a few people who work cruises, not as actors, but as singers and so forth. And they say it's great because what you do is you don't spend any money at all.
No.
So when you come home, all the money you've earned, it's there in the bank.
And it's tax-free.
Is it?
Yes, because you're working out of the UK.
My goodness me, I didn't know that at all either.
See, that's going back to the money thing. That's when you've got it, but then you come back and spend it very quickly. But yeah.
And for 3 weeks, I mean, if you're doing the same act every night, it could be quite boring, I think, but presumably it's not. You were pretty busy.
There's no chance to get bored of them, really. I mean, when they settle in and you know exactly what you're doing, that's when you can adapt and change and do different things. For the first few cruises, I guess, we're just finding our way with the shows and remembering which exit to go off. But then when we know them very well, if you get bored, you can always say, well, I'll do that song tonight and you do this one.
Yeah.
And, as long as the costumes fit, it's fine.
What's on the Calypso, was there a good stage area, a good backstage area? Or
oh, no. It was very dodgy. We had a very small circular stage with a slight lip at the side. It was only used as for bands before. It was, I think it did do Russian seas, and they only had like Russian bands on there before.
Right.
So we had the small concrete floor, So you're doing these leaps and dances. The ceiling was very low, so to put your hands up for a final dance move, you had to open your legs really wide so your fingers wouldn't get stuck in the slats. And quite often you come off, and your fingers would be bleeding, and you know the girls would lose their fingernails nightly because they'd forget that the ceiling was so low to begin with.
How much of an audience? 400?
Yeah, but we do 2 shows a night, about 400.
And how many on the cruise altogether?
About 800. So it was a very small ship.
Which is why you needed to have lots of shows,
yes.
so that you could have a different show every night.
Yes, yeah. We had one night off when the comedian came on, and our cruise director was very good and usually put that on when we had a nice overnighter somewhere. So
yeah, so you could have a bit of a relax.
Escape. Yeah.
How big was the company then?
The company itself is it's an agency-based company up in Keighley, and they do all the Thompson ships, and they do quite a lot of hotels now. Warner Hotels are just taken on board.
And do you have a sort of producer for your particular cruise?
Yes, we do. We have a line producer who comes on and oversees everything.
Do they act in it as well? Or?
Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Our cruise director, a man called Frank Hammond, who's been in the business for many years, he was very involved in all the shows on board. And then you have a team leader, which I was the team leader of the Ents staff, so I kind of rustled them into position. And
so basically, once the cruise is going, you're in charge of looking
pretty
after.
much, yeah.
And how many people are in charge?
We had a small team on that. We only had 10 of us.
And you would be both actors, singers, and dancers.
Actors, singers, dancers, yeah, and also hosts because we did game shows on board. There was no separate Ents staff.
Is that about like the Redcoats?
Kind of. The Calypso was very much like Redcoats, except there was no kids on board. It was an adults-only ship,
right,
which made it a lot easier. And because it was such a small ship, there wasn't very many duties, so you kind of did your game show, which I loved. And
did you have time off then, apart from the one night when the comedian was
quite
on?
a lot of time off, because we only did the 2 shows a night, and the rest of the day, you know, you'd have a half an hour duty here and there where you have to go and say hello to the passengers, or you know, get the games out for them, then go away and, you know, show them what to do with the quoits for those that had never played it before. And then, yeah, it was pretty much time off. It's a very easy life. On that particular ship, it was a very easy life.
So by sheer chance, you fell into this completely
yeah.
unknown to you, because most actors probably know little about cruising.
I had no idea, apart from what I'd seen Jane McDonald do. You know, and I thought I didn't fancy the perm, so I thought I'd avoid that.